Welcome to Designed for the Creative Mind, a podcast for interior designers and creative entrepreneurs to run their business with purpose, efficiency, and passion. Because while every design is different, the process should remain the same. Prepare yourself for some good conversations with amazing guests, a dash of Jesus, and a touch of the woo-woo, and probably a swear word or two. If you're ready to stop trading your time for money and enjoy your interior design business, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Michelle Lynn. Welcome back to the podcast. And I'm just here to tell you that over-delivering isn't a flex. It's a fast track to burnout, profit loss, and a client who keeps asking for more. I know. We've all been told to go above and beyond. Like, it is literally baked into the service culture, especially in creative industries like ours. But in reality, over-delivering is one of the most expensive habits that you can have in your design business. Today, we're going to break down why over-delivering backfires, how to deliver just enough to wow your clients, and keep your margins intact. And I'll even give you the exact phrases I use to stop scope creep in its tracks. So if you're a chronic over-deliverer, and you know who you are, this episode might sting a little bit, but it will save you thousands of dollars and maybe even your sanity. You're welcome. So let's start with where this idea even comes from, over delivery. Like, where does this idea even come from? Most of us grew up hearing that success comes from working harder than everyone else, and under-promising and over-delivering is a great tool for success. And I can tell you this because I've heard this before, and I come from a hospitality industry background as well as a retail industry background and corporate service roles. So I've heard this until I was blue in the face. I was conditioned to think that the customer's always right and that a happy customer is the one that you shower with extras. And I'm assuming that many of you have heard the same thing or were brainwashed the same way as I was when I was in other areas. So in design, which is where we are now, okay? So let's forget about my restaurant background. Let's forget about the retail jobs I had in college. Let's forget about my corporate roles and anything that's related in your background. Because in design is where we are today. And in design, over-delivering can feel good in the moment. You know, the client smiles, you get that quick hit of gratitude. Your ego's like, yes, they love me. But here's the problem. The more you give beyond the agreed scope, the more you set a precedent. Okay, let me repeat that for those of you in the back. The more you give beyond the agreed scope, the more you set a precedent. What I mean by that is that you're training your client to expect more than they paid for every single time. And the minute that you stop, you look like you're doing less, even if you're finally just sticking to the original agreement. So what does that mean? Like, how does over-delivering hurt? It sounds good in concept, but let me just tell you, there's financial impact, there's client dynamics, and there's the emotional burnout. So with the financial impact, every time you add an extra site visit, or you make additional design revisions, or you sneak in a bonus accessory install or something, babe, you're working unpaid hours. Or if you're charging a flat fee, you're eating into your margin. Okay, that's lowering your effective hourly rate without you even realizing it. So, for example, I once added a quick, quote unquote, quick sourcing trip for a client because I was already going to market for another project. Okay, so that quick trip turned into 3 hours of my time plus follow-up emails. And all of this was essentially for free. Okay, so multiply that from one project to multiple projects, and that's like that's thousands of dollars. Even for this one particular project, I mean, if I had been calculating my hourly rate, I don't, yeah. So there's the example. I don't even want to do the math on that. But does that make sense? Is that something that you do? Okay, that needs to be billable time. It needs to be planned on in advance, especially if you're doing a flat fee or if you just feel like you didn't offer enough on the front end. But remember, whatever you offered on the front end is what they agreed to. So the dynamics of the client is going to change because when you over deliver the first time, okay, that's the baseline, that's the precedent, that is the what would you call it, the boilerplate. That's what you're that's the line in the sand that you're drawing, and clients start to think that that's the norm. And it's not like they're going back and reading your actual contracted scope of work. But if they do, then it starts to feel like less. So this is where you are basically inviting scope creep and introducing them like they're a guest at the party. So oftentimes I hear designers say, well, yeah, they're the clients at, is getting more than what they paid for. So my question at that point is, well, why? Who introduced it? How did you allow it? Because oftentimes we introduce it without even recognizing it, and then we get pissed off at the client. Okay. And then that starts leading to the emotional burnout. Over delivering, it drains your creative energy because you're constantly giving more than you planned for or budgeted for. And that's where the resentment shows up. So oftentimes we have to stop and think, is this something that I did? I don't even know where I learned it, but when you point a finger at somebody, just remember that there's three more fingers pointing back at you. Okay. So it's not a good look for your client relationships or your mental health. So this is why you don't want to be over delivering. Under promising and over delivering is a great idea, and it works in some instances, but not in the overarching delivery of your design. So the right amount of delivering, let's think about this differently, okay? Let's reframe this. Your job is to deliver exactly what you promised, but it's executed exceptionally well. Okay, and then there might be the little surprises that you do add in there, but they're not surprises to you because you've already budgeted for them. For example, it could be that you give your clients a, I don't know, a $250 gift certificate to take the family out to dinner in the middle of their kitchen renovation. Maybe it's $100, like whatever that is, but you budgeted for that. So it's a surprise to them, but you're not resenting it because it's not coming out of your profit because you built it into your fee structure. So technically, your client's buying themselves dinner, but you're giving it to them. Okay, so your job is to deliver exactly what you promised. It's executed exceptionally well. So, and that's what I mean. So, like, if you go to a fancy restaurant, they're not randomly bringing you a free dessert or a free appetizer or anything like that. They've perfected their process and they've built it into their pricing. Okay, it's free bread. It's not free bread. It's not free chips and salsa. They've built it in. Okay, so in design, what that means is a defined scope of work in your agreement. Okay, agreed timelines and clear communication checkpoints. This is what I teach in the interior design business bakery. Like, this is how you write your scope of work. This is how you set appointments in advance so that your timeline is agreed to. And this is when you communicate. Maybe it's every Friday follow-ups because clients actually value the reliability, the consistency, and meeting expectations more than they appreciate surprises. So yeah, do they appreciate the $250 gift certificate to go out and eat dinner? Of course they do. But what they're going to appreciate more is knowing that their kitchen renovation is on track and on schedule. Consistency throughout your process builds trust. It's Even though we think it's about adding more, it's not about adding more. It's about delivering exactly what you said you would at the quality that you promised. Let me repeat that. It's not about adding more. It's about delivering exactly what you said you would at the quality that you promised. So when a client asks for something out of scope, what you can say to them is, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Let's talk about adding that as a separate service so that we can keep your main project on track. Same thing as saying, absolutely, that's a fantastic idea. Let me get another scope of work for that. Okay, or I love that direction. We can absolutely do it. And here's the updated timeline and cost so you can decide if it's worth it. Whether you're handing it to them or you're basically, if you've had experience in the design industry, you can say, absolutely, it's probably going to cost somewhere between X and Y, and it'll take, a few weeks longer. I can check with the contractor, whatever that looks like. Okay. Or maybe it's not a renovation, but maybe what they're wanting to do is add their entryway to the already planned design for the living room or something like that. But what you're doing is you're letting your client know that this isn't going to be just a like, oh, while you're here. So here's an example that I give a lot is like, and this happened to me as well, is I was at a client's house. What we were doing is, and I'm in Texas. So basically when you walk in a lot of front doors, you've got the entryway. On the right, you have either the formal living or the formal dining. On the left, you have the other one, either the formal living or the formal dining. Okay, or sometimes you have an office. And then you walk through and there's a powder bath, and then you keep walking through just this little hallway area. And then you get into the kitchen and maybe the living room. Okay, so we were doing the entryway and we were doing the formals in the front, the formal living and the formal dining, and then in the back we were just touching up a little bit of the living room, okay, or the family room, whatever you want to call it. So in between there's the powder bath, and so the client says, hey, while you're here, what do you think we should do here? Should I put some wallpaper or paint it or tile it or whatever? And I was like, oh gosh, there are so many options. Would you like me to drop another scope of work so that we can address that? Okay, the client wasn't being a turkey. They weren't being a turkey at all by asking me for my opinion or my advice or while you were here. It's natural. Like she felt comfortable with me. And so forth. But you still have to be a business person first. Okay, so it's easy to say, do you want me to create another scope of work for you? Okay, but what happens also, and the way you can prevent them even getting to that potentially uncomfortable spot, is in your onboarding, okay, or as you're going through what I teach. If you've been to my rolling in the dough free workshop, or if you're in the bakery, then what I basically teach is that you are walking through the process and you are educating the client on the front end, is that I'm going to create the scope of work, and that is anything and every deliverable that I will be providing to you in this service. Okay. You could say, to keep your project on schedule and within budget, we stick closely to the agreed scope. That way there are no surprises for you. You're setting their expectations even before they sign the contract. So they understand this is what I do and this is how I do it. And also, here's like a gut check for you. Before you say yes to something, ask yourself, does this help the client and my business, or just my ego? Yeah, I know that kind of hurts, huh? Because sometimes it's just our ego. We want to be liked. We want to make people happy. And y'all, I hope you know by now that I say that without judgment, but truly with the experience that I've had in my own business and my own ego.
You're an interior designer, not a marketer, but somehow you're stuck spending hours on SEO, social media, and email campaigns instead of doing what you love, designing beautiful spaces. Marketing shouldn't take over your business. That's why Sidemark was built by designers for designers. We offer done for you marketing services like SEO, paid ads, email, and even social media management so you don't have to lift a finger. Not quite ready to let someone run it all for you? We also have done with you software subscriptions that include all of the tools you need, along with live coaching, courses, and 24/7 live support to help you market smarter with a clear plan. Imagine getting back to doing more of why you started your business in the first place. Solve the marketing overwhelm and visit www.mysidemark.com today. That's www.mysidemark.com.
So one of my interior design business bakery students or clients, or let's just call her a baker, Sarah, she joined the bakery. I can still picture the Zoom call that we had. And she was just exhausted. She was burnt out and she was just constantly giving more than she charged for. And, like many of us, she thought it was building loyalty. But what it was doing is it was actually kind of creating dependency, and she was getting resentful. Like she said, one of the reasons I have to join the bakery is because I have to get my processes in place, and I don't know how to do that because I am just getting so tired and so exhausted and so mad at my clients that I know it's more. So what we did is I taught her how to write her scope of work to clearly define the deliverables. Like if it's not on the scope of work, I'm not doing it. If it's on the scope of work and I accidentally forgot about, say, that powder bathroom, well then oops, it'll get done. So she has the template that I use to write her scope of work to clearly define those deliverables. And then also we worked on just some of the scripts that we just went through. Okay, when clients ask for extra, what do you say? So we did that, and in fact, she posted her scope of work in our private group and got some immediate feedback. And within two projects, she was making more money and had clients thanking her for keeping things so clear and efficient that she was shocked. She was shocked. It turns out the clients do love structure as much as they love the design. Okay, I mean, think I have a 7-year-old. If you guys have children, you know that even if they gripe a little bit about structure, Mom, I don't want to go to bed right now. Mom, do I have to brush my teeth before school? Like those things. But you know they love them. It gives them the rhythm. And our clients are the same way. And Lord knows it saves our sanity. So when you're over delivering, well, let me just call this out. When you're over delivering, you're undervaluing yourself. Over delivering equals undervaluing yourself. Clients want clarity and consistency more than they want constant freebies. Okay, so am I saying not to give them freebies? I'm saying you need to be very strategic with your freebies, and technically they're not freebies. Technically, the client pays for them in their design fee before they become what they think is a freebie to them. Freebies are not showing up for extra client visits. Freebies are not showing up to do those extra accessory shops. Freebies are not, oh, well, you're here. Okay, so you deliver exactly what's promised. If you do not have a scope of work that you use that is very highly detailed, you need to create one. Okay, I'm also inviting you to the Interior Design Business Bakery. I mean, that's just an open invitation. But you need to do exactly what's promised and do it well. That is what earns trust and repeat business. Okay, so just inside the Interior Design Business Bakery, I walk you through the exact client onboarding process, the exact scope of work, language, and the templates so that this just becomes second nature. And also, if you want to focus on consistently attracting the right clients so you're never tempted to say yes to work that doesn't serve you, that's what I teach in the Lead Lab. So, if today's episode had you nodding along, go check those out. Okay, they're where I share the deeper tools to actually implement what we talk about here. So, y'all, that's another rule of running a design business that no one else will say out loud. Don't over deliver. I'm Michelle Lynn, and I'll see you next time with more truths that you actually need to hear. Hey, y'all. If you love the show and find it useful, I would really appreciate it if you would share with your friends and followers. And if you like what you're hearing, want to put a face with a name, and get even more business advice, then join me in my Facebook group, the Interior Designers Business Launchpad. Yeah, I know, it's Facebook. But just come on in for the training and then leave without scrolling your feed. It's fun, I promise you'll enjoy it. And finally, I hear it's good for business to get ratings on your podcasts, so please drop yours on whatever platform you use to listen to this. We're all about community over competition, so let's work on elevating our industry one designer at a time. See you next time.